yesterday. And I said, what's that? He said, well, the Metropolitan Police have got together a sort of catalogue of 20 films which they want to ban because they think they're so horrible. And I'd known about this beforehand, and I said, well, you'll see me, because I'm in 3 of them. And he gave me a long, 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 sad, sort of weary look, and all he then said was, Ian, how could you? The question about the sort of film working or not, it didn't work with any critics at all. It was panned, I think, sort of fairly universally. And I did a little sort of tour last year after the first convention that Mike had organised, and I went on the internet, and if you want a good laugh, or you want to feel low if you're one of the actors, you just go through and you see what people have got to say about you. I mean, the acting is usually described as being pretty wooden, so my name is Ian, I thought of changing that to Elm. And I've known, this is serious, I thought McCulloch, I thought of changing to McOak. And then when the people say you're a sort of fat or balding or whatever, it feels fairly sort of hurtful. But my favourite thing, it actually wasn't to do with this film, it was the film which sort of followed it, which you're going to see, or you may have seen last night, Zombie Holocaust. And the opening paragraph of this review, it started off by saying, when they've run out of ideas in the Italian schlock industry, Ian McCulloch listlessly wanders the earth looking like a man in need of a beer and a shag.
Ian, what were
Are there any beers out there?
Ian, how well behaved were Richard and Al at the time of the shooting of Zombie 2?
Well, I hope all your eyes go in their direction now. They were absolutely disgustingly bad. I mean, I was new to this sort of world, and I was very, very nervous and tremendously apprehensive. I didn't know what to do, what to say. And they behaved, these two especially, I mean, so badly. And I'd hoped that, I mean, I'd known and admired Richard as a classical British theatre actor. We were both in the Royal Shakespeare Company. And I was coming over to admire and respect him and be guided by him in all things cinematic and social and all the rest of it. And he did his very best to lead me astray.
In what way could I have?
By what you did once the film had finished and we were back in the hotel.
Can he mean? I don't know. You understand what he's talking about, huh? He's jealous. He got it in one word. Right.
Guilty.
The world is jealous of Al Cliver. I mean, there's a film, The Alcove, where Al Cliver's in the film with Laura Gemser, Annie Bell, and Lily Karate, all in the same film. How did you handle it? How did you handle it?
When I finished the movies, I had to go 15 days in the clinic.
Nice. He could handle it. Man's man.
You've all been in so many films. You described Al as Endgame being your personal favorite of the films you were in. Why is Endgame your favorite?
Endgame rules.
I don't know. I mean,
Al, do you remember Endgame? Do you remember filming Endgame?
I mean, I was very young that time. And for me, to work in the movies was like to play, like to go to Disneyland. I was everywhere except in the place where I had to act. Where is Al? I could be there.
Kind of like conventions.
And so, those two movies, Zombie and then the game, I amuse a lot myself. Why, in Zombie there was tropical country, boat, under the water, and the game too, full of fighting, running motorbike, and the director of and the game the opposite of Fulci. But I managed with both of them.
Okay, since we've gotten off of the film Zombie, we'll give you a chance to ask any more questions. I have a question for Mr. Richard Johnson. He started one of my favorite and what I would actually consider the scariest haunted house film ever made, The Haunting, and worked with one of my favorite directors ever, Mr. Robert Wise, who produced and directed the film. Can you tell me, what you thought of Robert Wise and that film, which holds up so well today? I show it to kids, and they look at me and go, "It's black and white," and I'm like, "Well, don't watch Legend of Hell House. It's the same damn movie. This one's better." And they all agree that it's a wonderfully scary film. Well, do you have any stories about being on that film and working with Robert Wise?
Yeah. I mean, I think that Robert Wise was not only a great director, he was a great teacher as well. And he taught me, I must say, well, such little as I know about anything, he taught me a few things about acting in the movies. Because I was working, how I could have been doing it I don't know, but I was working in London, in the theatre at the time we were shooting The Haunting, so that I would do The Haunting during the day and go back to London and do the show in the evening, and then I'd have a few hours sleep and a car pick me up in the morning and go back down to the studio. So it was a kind of exhausting schedule. And I hadn't been in many movies up to that point. And so I said to Robert Wise, is there any advice you can give to me as a predominantly theatre actor, the things that I ought to be really to know technically about acting for the screen? And he said, yeah, well, one or two things, Richard. He said, don't blink too much. Don't blink too much? He said, yeah, because if you're on a 40-foot screen and you're blinking all the time, it is a massive gesture. People think, what's he blinking for all the time? Why doesn't he just look us in the eye and get on with it? Is he nervous? So I had to learn not to blink too much. And the other thing he said was, when you're in a close-up and somebody that you're working with is behind the camera and you're talking to them behind the camera's here and they're over there and you're talking to them, he said, pick an eye. That's another thing you have to know about microphones. Don't say P's into them. Pick an eye and stick with it. Don't look from eye to eye. It's very natural. People very naturally do when they're talking to somebody. They look at one eye and they look at the other and they look back and So if you're doing that in a close-up and you can't see the other person, then you look as if your eyes are swiveling around. He said, again, you will look nervous and people will lose their concentration on what you're saying and feeling and so on. He said, if you have to change your eye line, because you're getting, you're looking at her like that all the time, you can look down, especially if you're working with a woman. He said, look down at her lips. He says, it's like just slightly titillating for the audience. Why is he looking down? Why is he doing things like that? He said, apart from that, leave it to me. So just do what you would do. Given the set of circumstances that you're in a haunted house and you're a professor of haunting, or whatever it was I was supposed to be. Well, just do what you would do under those circumstances and leave the rest to me. I will cut it together. I will make sure that you are in a close-up when you need to be. I will make sure that you don't overdo anything, because I'll cut away from you if you try. And all that sort of stuff. He said, just leave that to me. Which is something that actors very often, I think, resent. Basically, their performance is in the hand of the director. He's going to time the laughs for them. He's going to do all the things which we do for ourselves in the theatre. He's going to do for you. So you've really got to put a lot of faith and trust in the director. And Robert Wise was somebody you could trust implicitly. So that's what